All right, diving right in today, we're tackling the Panama Canal.
A classic.
Yeah, but seriously, the story behind this thing, I had no idea. I mean, we're talking about a 50-mile stretch that basically changed how the world works.
It's wild when you think about it. Like, way back, even before the U.S. was even a thing.
Right.
You had this guy, Vasco Núñez de Balboa.
Balboa, like the dance.
No, haha. Though maybe he was a dancer too, who knows. But this guy, he was exploring Panama back in the 1500s, and already he's got this vision of a canal.
No way, a canal back then.
Even before anyone had really mapped out the Americas properly, he's seeing this shortcut between the oceans. That's some serious foresight.
It's not like the idea just went away.
Nope. A century later, you have Sir Thomas Browne, the English writer, talking about Panama as the perfect spot for a canal.
So this was like a recurring dream for centuries.
It seems that way. People understood the potential of this place, but, dreams are one thing, actually building it.
Yeah, the reality check hit pretty hard.
Especially for the French. Late 1800s, they decide to give it a go. Led by Ferdinand de Lesseps, the Suez Canal guy. You'd think he'd have it in the bag.
Right, he'd already done one massive canal project.
Exactly. But Panama, it was a whole different beast. Rainforest, landslides, diseases.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. They were dropping like flies, right?
Sadly, yes. Yellow fever, malaria. They lost over 200 workers per month at some points. Back then, they didn't really get how mosquitoes spread disease. Huge tragedy.
And on top of that, the engineering itself must have been a nightmare.
It was. Much harder rock than at Suez, steeper mountains, way more rain. It all added up to delays, costs going through the roof.
And in the end, total financial collapse.
Yep, their company went bankrupt, caused a huge scandal back in France. Even Gustave Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower guy, got tangled up in it.
Wow, so the dream basically died right there.
For a while, yeah, it seemed like Panama was cursed or something.
But then entered Teddy Roosevelt. Stage left.
Yeah, Roosevelt was not about to let this dream die. He knew how important this canal could be.
Strategically right. For the U.S. Navy, for trade.
Exactly. He saw the big picture. But Roosevelt, he wasn't always known for playing by the rules.
Meaning?
Well, to get a good deal, let's just say the U.S. encouraged Panama to become independent from Colombia.
Oh, right. Kind of nudged them along, so to speak.
Gunboat diplomacy is the term, I believe. Not exactly ethical, but it got the job done.
So the U.S. inherits this half-finished project, all the challenges the French faced. What did they do differently?
Well, first, they went big. New equipment, tons of it, and they finally figured out how to tackle the disease problem.
Thanks to folks like Colonel Gorgas, right?
Absolutely. He was a sanitation hero. They also switched things up engineering-wise. John Frank Stevens, the engineer, he convinced Roosevelt to ditch the sea-level canal idea.
A sea-level canal, wouldn't that have been simpler?
You'd think so, but Panama's terrain, especially that crazy Chagres River, it just wasn't practical.
So locks were the answer.
Exactly. Complicated, yeah, but it worked. They tamed the river, made the canal possible, and the rest, as they say.
History. I mean, when you think about it, the sheer scale of this thing is incredible.
Yeah.
Calibracut, Gatun Lake, those massive locks, it's mind-blowing.
It really is. Human willpower and ingenuity on full display. And the impact was huge. Travel times between the oceans cut down dramatically, trade routes redrawn. It changed the world, basically.
Then there's that whole Panamax thing, right?
Yeah.
Ships literally being built to fit the exact dimensions of the canal.
Like those mega ships they have now, they had to expand the canal just to handle them.
It's insane. The canal was shaping how ships were built.
Yeah.
Talk about global impact.
You got it. But it also shows how things change. Even something as monumental as the Panama Canal needs to adapt. Technology evolves, trade patterns shift, and then, of course...
That's the whole water situation. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah. The canal, it all runs on rainfall. No rain, no canal. And lately...
Droughts. I've been hearing about it. That must be a huge worry for them.
It is. The canal's fate is literally tied to the weather. But it's not just about the canal itself, it's about the people. Panama City relies on that water, too.
It's amazing how this one waterway connects to so many things. Climate, trade, even basic survival for millions of people.
You've got it. It's a microcosm of a lot of the challenges we're facing in the 21st century. And that brings us to, well, the elephant in the room.
President-elect Trump and his interesting ideas about the canal.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms, isn't it?
I'd say. We need a bigger boat to navigate those waters.
Absolutely. So yeah, Trump and the Panama Canal, where do we even begin with that?
I mean, he's been pretty vocal, hasn't he? Saying the U.S. should just retake it, like it's some lost treasure or something.
It's certainly causing a stir, but you have to remember, the canal is deeply symbolic for Panama.
Right, it's their thing, their pride.
Exactly. It represents their independence, their ability to manage a global asset, and they've poured resources into modernizing it, making it even better.
And for the U.S., there's that whole history, right? Plus the economic angle. Trade flows smoothly, everyone benefits.
Absolutely. So you've got these deep-seated interests on both sides. Add in the current global climate.
Things are kind of tense right now, yeah.
Exactly. So the canal becomes this focal point. All these anxieties about China, about trade wars, it all gets projected onto this one waterway.
It's like a lightning rod for global anxiety.
Yeah.
But can Panama actually hold its ground if things get serious?
Well, giving up the canal, I really doubt it. It's too important to them, both economically and emotionally.
They've shown they can handle it.
They have, but they can't just sit back and relax. The world is changing fast. They need to be thinking ahead.
What do you mean?
Well, how will trade evolve? What will ships look like in 20, 30 years? They need to anticipate that, be ready to adapt.
Future-proofing the canal.
Exactly. And then there's the geopolitical balancing act. They've got to manage the U.S., deal with China's growing influence. It's a tough spot to be in.
Talk about walking a tightrope. And then there's the whole environmental thing on top of it all. Those droughts.
Yeah, that's the big wild card, isn't it? Climate change, water shortages, extreme weather, it all adds up to a very uncertain future.
So, are they actually equipped to handle all of this? I mean, it sounds overwhelming.
It's a fair question. Panama is facing some tough choices. Do they prioritize expansion, even if it puts more stress on their water resources? Do they risk upsetting the U.S. by working more closely with China?
No easy answers there.
Not at all. But I think Panama is committed to making this work. They understand how vital the canal is, and they've got the expertise, the dedication.
It's easy to forget about the human side of this, the people who actually make the canal run.
That's right. In the end, it all comes down to human ingenuity, human cooperation.
So what should we be watching for? What are the key things that will decide the canal's fate?
Keep an eye on that U.S.-Panama relationship. Will things calm down? Will they find a way to work together?
And China. They're a big factor, obviously.
Huge. Will they try to get more involved in the canal? How will that play out? These are the big questions.
And then, of course, the whole sustainability question.
Can they manage their water resources? Can they adapt to a changing climate? That might be the biggest challenge of all.
It's like we've got this perfect storm brewing, geopolitics, economics, the environment, all converging on this one spot.
And at the center of it all, human resilience. The canal's story is ultimately a human story.
It makes you realize how connected we all are. Our actions have consequences. What happens in Panama doesn't stay in Panama, you know?
Exactly. It's a reminder that we're all part of this global system. And the choices we make will shape the future, for better or for worse.
So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought. What if the Panama Canal didn't exist?
What would that world look like? How would your life be different?
It's a good question to think about, because by understanding the canal's importance, even if it feels far away, we can better understand how interconnected our world truly is.
And who knows, maybe it'll inspire some of us to take action, to make choices that ensure a better future for everyone.
Back again with a deep dive. And wow, you guys are really engaged with this Panama Canal thing. We got some awesome comments during that little break.
A lot of folks are worried about the water situation, understandably so.
Yeah, it's not just about keeping those ships moving. It's about people's lives.
Exactly. Panama City gets its water from the canal, too. Millions of people depend on it.
It's a whole other level of importance.
Absolutely. Those droughts, they're not just an inconvenience, they could trigger a major crisis.
It's that ripple effect, right? Something like climate change, which feels kind of abstract sometimes, suddenly becomes very real.
Very real, very urgent. They're looking at desalination plants, new reservoirs. Panama's not sitting still.
But it's not just about finding more water, is it? It's also about using what they have wisely.
Right, like those water-saving basins they built into the new locks. That's smart engineering.
Technology can help. But it also takes a change in mindset. We've got to start respecting water more, treating it like the precious resource it is.
Couldn't agree more. So we've got a whole mix of challenges, right? The environment, geopolitics, economics. Can Panama actually thread the needle here?
It's a lot to ask. But, you know, the canal has this history of resilience. It's been through wars, earthquakes, political turmoil. It's almost like It has its own destiny.
I like that. It's not just a thing, it's a story that keeps unfolding. And we're all part of it in a way.
Right, think about it. Every time you order something online, fill up your car with gas, there's a good chance the Panama Canal played a role in getting those things to you.
It's a reminder that we're all connected, even if we don't always see it. Our choices matter. What we do here can impact what happens on the other side of the world.
So, last thought before we wrap things up. Imagine, just for a second, a world without the Panama Canal. What would that look like?
What would it mean for you, for your life? For the global economy, it's a good exercise. Because it forces us to confront how interconnected everything really is.
And maybe it'll inspire some of us to think differently, to make choices that support a more sustainable, more equitable future for everyone.
Well said. It's been great diving deep with you into this whole Panama Canal saga.
Thanks for being here. And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep learning. The world is full of fascinating stories waiting to be discovered. Until next time.